Hi there, you're listening to the Bigfoot Society podcast, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. Every week I talk to individuals who have experienced Sasquatch in some way or another, so you won't want to miss an episode. Make sure you're subscribed on the platform that you're listening to, and share this episode with a friend. It does not cost a thing, and it helps the show continue to grow. If you'd like to hear Bigfoot Society episodes early and ad-free, you can do so by becoming a Patreon supporter or a YouTube channel member. Links to those are in the show notes. In Bigfoot Society, I've taken far too much of your time so far, so let's get on with the show. Bit of an introduction before we get started. You may remember Bigfoot Society number 319 a while back. That was Red sharing his encounter in an undisclosed area of Iowa. That was a pretty intense location. You may also remember that during that encounter, there was another gentleman, his friend Joshua, with him. Amazingly enough, a few days after I interviewed Red, I was able to interview his friend Joshua to get his side of the story. However, that was not for the podcast. Now, I've been in contact with Joshua over the last few days and weeks, and Joshua has gotten to the point where he is actually okay for me to release his side of that encounter on the podcast. So without further ado, I'd like to release Joshua's side of the encounter that you first heard in episode 319. It's very interesting to hear Joshua's side of what happened. Enjoy. So I had a really interesting conversation with your buddy Red the other night, and so I this is kind of my thing I do on the side. I talk to people about stuff like this, and I thought, so the area you guys were in is very interesting because I've talked to some old school Bigfoot researchers from the 70s, and they bring it up, but they can't remember why it was a big deal because they're really old. So when he brought that up, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then you also being there, it'd be just interesting to hear what it is that you remember of what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's odd, I almost wasn't even there. Like, Red was going to go out there by himself, and I had to work. And then Wednesday at about 2 p.m., my boss was just like, hey, he was going to Vancouver on vacation. And he's like, I don't have any work for you on Thursday, which was the next day. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I just have the day off. And I was like, well, you mind if I take Friday off? My buddy was wanting to go camping. So that's how I ended up going. Just kind of the last minute thing. And so, we were driving around, doing some rock hunting and things like that, which is a hobby of ours. And I had never even heard of it before. I'm usually a Shimmick guy. And Yellow River State Forest had been on my radar as a place that, I had never been before, but would like to. My family does canoeing and things like that down rivers. So it seemed like a good idea. And then, so we didn't get to until after the sun had gone down pretty much. It was already past the horizon. It was still, twilight. I joked that just kind of like surrounded by this forest. And I joked and I said, Harry and the Hendersons, not even thinking in a million years that, we would run into anything like that, And so we go in and we start making camp, setting up camp. We drove past a few other campsites, like a backpacking trail that would have led to a campsite. And I don't know the name or recall the name of where we were. I know that we got to campsite 3 and 4, which were right next to each other. And anyway, so as we're setting up camp, we hear something off in the distance. At the time, the Reds had mentioned something like, oh, maybe there's elk in the park. And I knew it wasn't elk, but I just thought, yeah, something. It was, off in the distance. I didn't really have any idea what it could have been, but I went back to what I was doing. And So we were kind of, not really being super quiet. So whatever was in there would have known we were there. And so, I was taking like my flashlight around and picking up firewood with my flashlight on my phone and snapping photos. I seen a snake, so kind of being loud and being, visible. And I got done picking up all the firewood that I thought we would need for a while. And I sat down in my chair there cooking a bratwurst. He had just started cooking a bratwurst. And right behind us, right over where I had been with my flashlight picking up firewood, right behind us, we heard a whoop, a loud one, like right behind us. And I won't try to like replicate it right now on the phone, but I immediately knew that it was a Bigfoot just because, I've listened to the Sierra sounds and things like that and known well enough that that's how they communicate. We listen to podcasts and things of that nature, your podcast in particular. And just, I guess, our own curiosity kind of led me to that knowledge. And I looked at it right away and said, that's a Bigfoot. That's absolutely a Bigfoot. And you could hear it talking, like not to us, but, like a combination of like a gibberish and a growl and like forced exhales. You know what I mean? Like it's all in one sentence. And I wasn't really scared of it. I didn't think anything of it as far as like it being terrifying. It didn't like raise the hair on my back or anything like that. I just was like, okay, well, it isn't in the campsite, but I figured it was just trying to like, I don't know, prank us. It just seemed like that. I know that seems weird, but it wasn't trying to like be aggressive at that moment. And so, that put us on alert and, we started hearing almost like a whispering wood knock. Like it was wood knocks that weren't coming from the same direction, I don't believe, from the whoop, but they were wood knocks that were not intended for us. Like it was very much not like they were trying to communicate with something else, with another Bigfoot or something like that, to only where they would make it out. That's why I called it like a whispering knock, because it wasn't someone beating on a tree, and definitely wasn't like a knock that was meant to scare us, because, it wasn't very loud, even though it wasn't that far away. And pretty much we were just to the point where, like, we started hearing some other things here and there, sounds, and, to go along with that wood knock. And we were just like, okay, well, we're not going to go to sleep tonight. We're just going to stay up. And just a few moments later, I'm sitting, it's kind of hard. Well, so where we're sitting, right behind is his tent and then his vehicle. Excuse me. His vehicle is like right behind his tent. And my tent is very small. It's like a bike pack. So it's a very small tent. And where I was seated, I had more of a clear, I guess, acoustic clearing from where we heard the whoop. So I think I was probably getting more of the sound, but it started, I'm assuming it was a woman. So when you go back and you listen to like the Sierra tapes, to me, it sounds like one of those is a female Bigfoot, just from the way that, it vocalizes, as opposed to one that sounds like a man. And it seemed like the one that started getting angry with us sounded more like it would have been a female Bigfoot. And it was, I think, so at this point in time, we were hearing something over there, and we were using the flashlights on our camera, trying to videotape, because we were hearing other sounds, and we were trying to like, try to get that auditory, vocalization recorded somehow. And it just seemed like whenever we stopped recording, they would start talking again. And I don't know, maybe it was coincidence, but it seemed very odd that they would be silent when we were, recording for the most part. But I think that one Bigfoot was really pissed off at our lights. We're both got a flashlight. LEDs are kind of annoying anyway to a human. Nobody likes having a flashlight shine in their eyes. But then it got very upset, and it was very loud, and it sounded like like doing stuff like that. But it was so loud. It sounded like it was right in front of me, and there was nothing there. I couldn't see a thing. And I literally stood up and yelled, "That's a mountain lion," because my mind just could not comprehend this crazy sound that I was hearing. And I stood up when I said that and immediately knew it was not a mountain lion, because I just realized that is not a sound that a cat would make. And for that matter, cats don't whoop and definitely don't talk in gibberish. And so I had actually picked up a hatchet at that point in time that was sitting right next to the tent, because I still thought that thing was going to come around the tent. I mean, it sounded like it was right in front of me. I thought it was right on the other side of this tent, or maybe around the side of this vehicle. And it was kind of disorienting because I just, there was nothing there that I could see. And later on, as me and Red were kind of reflecting on that after we left, it was kind of apparent to me, and I spent a lot of time, in nature and in woods, and an animal that was being aggressive towards us, that wouldn't have, they wouldn't care, they'd be coming at us, you know what I mean? Like if it was a mountain lion or something like that, first off, it probably wouldn't even make a sound. It would probably just slink off into the dark, leaving us alone. Bobcats, they don't attack unless you got them cornered. But it was very big. I could tell it was a big animal. And so we stood there for a while trying to get a glimpse of what we were seeing, what we were hearing. And Red saw it move from like a tree to another tree, just on the edge of the forest in the dark, just past where our lights could reach. And that really spooked him. And so he didn't even want to pack his things. Like he didn't even want to pack up his tent. Didn't want me to pack up my tent. I was like, I'm packing up my tent, and I just kind of, made my argument that if this animal, or if this Bigfoot was going to get us or come and do something, it would have done it already. It wouldn't be hiding over there and making these loud, aggressive sounds. And so I convinced him to do that. I broke down my tent. I helped him break down his tent. This took a while. And I had my flashlight on my phone out the entire time, so that we could see, because it was dark. It was pitch dark. And so and we weren't even rolling up our tents. We were just stuffing stuff inside the vehicle. And okay, so I'm going to roll back a little bit. When we first heard it whoop and talking, I had remembered that Sasquatch happens every once in a while. People report it to being telepathic. So I'm immediately in my mind trying to talk to this thing, thinking, hey, we don't want no trouble. We're just here to camp. Please leave us alone. I'm trying to put out that vibe to, if it can hear me. And I know that sounds crazy. And I never heard anything back, and I never, got any kind of reaction that way until we were almost completely packed up. And just as we were basically about to get into the vehicle and close all the doors, a male Bigfoot, and I know this sounds wild and made up, but a male, in my mind's eye, and I mean as clear as day, like it was standing right there in front of me, surrounded by I guess a blue aura. I saw a male Bigfoot in my mind's eye, like it was standing right in front of me, even clearer than I could even imagine my dad. Like I told my dad after this happened, I said, I can't even imagine you in my mind's eye as clear as what I could see that Bigfoot, like, as if it was standing right in front of me. It's what it looked like in my mind. And all it said was, "You make us laugh." And to me, that is the most unbelievable thing to say, but it's also the thing that really solidifies in me what it was that we were experiencing, because I've never experienced anything like that. I've never experienced something so clear come to me in my mind like that. And so, I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that we probably did make these Bigfoot laugh. We're fun. One, we're strange to them. We're completely alien in our way of life. Getting into a car, getting out of a car, a tent, a flashlight. What the hell? They have no context for what those things are, or at least I assume they don't. And we got in the vehicle and we drove away. And you still there?
Yep, sure am. I just let people talk.
Okay, yeah, I dig it. I dig that's what's going on. So I dig it. So, I mean, I've had other cryptid encounters in my life. I've got a whole book that I'm writing on them. And I had always joked that I'd never encountered a Bigfoot, but I knew his cousin. And so I don't know. I guess it's hard when people say, "Did you see a Bigfoot?" Well, yes and no. I didn't physically see it standing in front of me, but I saw it in my mind in a way that I really can't prove. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I know that sounds like the craziest thing. And when I had heard like and read stories about Sasquatch, the part of them being telepathic, I always thought was like the hardest to believe before that night. I always like, yeah, telepathic Bigfoot, what does that even mean?
Right.
What do you mean? Are they like grunting to you in your mind? Like, does it sound like gibberish? But it wasn't. It was like very short, very succinct, but very direct. It wasn't like some passing, like I connected with this thing and read its mind, and it was very much that it was, purposefully communicating at us or at me. And I don't know, man, that just seems to me, it just seems like, I would be more apt to say, well, maybe, other than the whoop and then the gibberish and things like that. I mean, it all points to the same thing that I totally didn't expect to ever encounter that, in the middle of Iowa, maybe in like, Yellow River State Forest up there.
Right.
Kinda,
yeah, that's the Finding Bigfoot. That's where they went, right? So that's where you would expect it. That's so weird, man.
Well, hear this. So where we were is in between two ponds. There's like I've looked at it on a topographical map.
Yep.
And it's this ridge, the road goes down this kind of the top of this ridge, and there's this pond on the left-hand side, kind of to the northeast, or excuse me, to the west. And then there's this other pond. It makes me wonder if there is an underground, world there that they
exactly
living deliberately, and maybe that's where they've been hiding. Because I've often believed that, they talk about people finding, Sasquatch nests and things like that. But I never see anybody, a Sasquatch researcher, go into the caves. I never see him do that.
Right.
And maybe that's a wild goose chase. But to me, at the right time of the day, or the right time of the year, maybe that's where they are at certain times, staying cool. It's probably where they're at right now when it's 115 fucking degrees outside.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, man. It's hot out. Well, I mean, I'm guessing you're in Iowa as well. So where we are, it's
I
hot.
grew up in Fort Madison.
Oh yeah.
And, I've had like weird stuff, like one time. So when I was a kid, I grew up, this is going to sound weird. I grew up in a weird family. Like my dad, was a trapper. We would trap, turtles, and my dad would sell them. He had like a trapper's license. We would hunt raccoons. We had packs of coon hounds. I'd go out hunting coons. My whole childhood, I'd be out, at night, any given weekend, hunting raccoon, at night with a pack of hounds and, my dad and, maybe some of his buddies. But, definitely me and my older brother, whether he liked it or not, we were out there hunting raccoon all night long. And, we didn't have a dog with us. And I often think that sometimes, Bigfoot are more likely to show themselves to people who don't have animals because, that's. And for that matter, I think a lot of cryptids are that way. Some of the other cryptids that I've encountered in my life, I think that maybe if I had a dog with me, I would have never seen them.
Sure.
So Fort Madison is an interesting town.
I do have a few questions as well. So let's see. Did you guys? So it sounds like you left pretty quick. Did you have to leave anything behind, or were you able to pack everything up?
I wanted to leave it all and come back in the morning, and I said no. I said we're going to pack it all up tonight. I'm not. I never felt any fear out of him. I think that the one that sounded angry, that was really being vocal, that was like, okay, time to go. The one that really put us on edge. I do think that it was just like, hey man, get that fucking flashlight out of my eyes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you got to get the fuck out of here at this point, because we were probably being annoying. They probably started out maybe curious, I'm sure they heard the car doors, shut when we showed up at the very least. They knew.
Or maybe,
so I wanted to mention.
Maybe they don't like the smell of bratwurst. You never know. Like, who knows?
I was thinking about maybe that might have been made them mad, because they were out there hungry all damn day. Right. Searching for food.
Exactly.
Foraging, which I forage a lot of mushrooms, wild mushrooms. And
sure, I
know how hard that can be and frustrating that can be. And then for someone to show up and start cooking a fucking bratwurst and you're hungry, Bigfoot being the diva, you better get at a Snickers bar, it's upset.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's part of it. Maybe they have. I think they're very intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
And, maybe that was the goal, was to scare us off our campsite and hopefully leave some food behind.
That'd be funny. But I can totally see it. Yeah.
And we talked about all kinds of stuff after that, the first thing we went and did when we was driving was listen to the Sierra Sounds tape. And I was like, my God, I can't believe it.
Oh, afterwards?
I can't believe it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was like, what? I was like, that is absolutely what I heard. But like, imagine the Sierra Sounds and then imagine them being pissed off talking, right? Really pissed off. And that's what it sounded like when we was like, okay, right. Time to, that's what had us on our feet. You know what I mean? But that's exactly what it was. And, so when we first got there and Red had mentioned that the sounds that we heard off in the distance, he had mentioned something about, it sounds like there might be elk in the woods. And I heard those sounds. And at the time, I didn't think Bigfoot. I just thought, oh, yeah, something over there. I didn't think it was elk. I knew it wasn't an elk, but I was like, yeah, it's something, huh? And but I just went back to doing my thing. And then later on, I realized that those were indeed whoops. They're like, whoop, whoop, whoop. Sequence of them, but they were way off in the distance. They were farther away. And when that one whooped right behind us, it was right behind us. And I think they're probably pretty good at like throwing their voice, which is why when it was yelling at me and it sounded like it was right in front of me, there was nothing there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it still sounded like a big ass animal, like It's like, dude, oh, what am I experiencing? I was more confused than scared than terrified. I was like, what the hell's going on? I fully expected to see something standing there, and
the whoops that you heard the first time that were like They were kind of out in the distance. What direction from where you were? Because I have some pictures of a map of the area that he sent over. But do you think they were near that pond, or like what direction? If you remember.
So it's hard for me to like get a direction in my mind of where I was, but I believe so. Okay, so imagine that we're standing in the campsite, right? Campsite 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And you turn around and you face the road that goes by the campsite. The loud whoop was right inside the tree line, right on the other side of that road. And if you were to continue to go down that road, I think it's north, if I'm not mistaken. It would be. So I think the first whoops that we heard were closer to that other pond. So I think that's where we first heard them. But the tree knocking was kind of over to like on our side of the road. At least that's what I heard. It's hard for me to tell on those because they were so quiet. And the way things sound in the forest is hard to determine. But both of what we heard, the loud whoop right behind us and the previous whoops, were coming from that direction towards that.
Okay.
But and I think they were down probably in that near that pond when they first started whooping.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I'd love to go back. Try to get a camera going, and be more prepared next time,
Yeah, because it's like
completely caught off guard.
I don't think it came out when he was talking to me a few nights ago, but so you guys actually did try to record the audio as it was happening, and you just weren't able to line it up.
Yeah, let me see if I haven't even gone back and listened to them.
Oh man, you got.
I didn't think I got anything.
You got to listen to that audio, dude.
Well, we listened to it once in the car.
Okay.
But it was like, God, I actually got more videos than I thought. And there's other creatures in there, like owls and
probably
bugs
cicadas.
And stuff like that. Yeah.
There's cicadas all over right now.
Yeah, I kept hoping like maybe our flashlights would illuminate some kind of eye glow or something like that, but our flashlights just weren't powerful enough.
If you did happen to record anything that sounds remotely like weird, if you want to send it over, you can totally do that, and I can listen to it too.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there. I have email is bigfootsociety@gmail.com, and then you've got my phone number as well. But he said that he did actually see something in the woods for pretty
so that
quick,
was
right?
Really cool. Yeah, so when we were like standing there trying to like flashlight see, and he's seen it, and that was when he was like time to go, and that like really spooked him. I don't know what it was, maybe that finally made it real, seeing it move, but that was when he wanted to pack up, or not even pack up. He wanted to leave and come back in the morning and get his stuff. It was when he seen it move, and I didn't see it, but I mean, it was night, and honestly, I wish I would have never turned my flashlight on, because it really ruined, how like you ruin your fucking night vision if you turn a light on.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I've spent enough time in the woods at night, coon hunting and other stuff. I camp all the time. We get out in the river bottoms, we really rough it. We canoe down the Iowa River, things like that, and camp on sandbars and stuff. Me and my family, like my brother and uncle and things like that. And we get out into the woods quite a bit. I was going to say earlier, when I was a little kid in the 80s, I was down in Devil's Creek, and I saw footprints down in there in the mud. And as a kid, I just thought, oh, those must be my dad's feet. You know what I mean? These big ass feet. And then as I grew older, I realized how out in the middle of fucking nowhere I was. And I was like, why would my dad have his shoes off? You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. And I never really even thought about it till, like, you know, only recently. Just like, what the hell was that? Actually a Bigfoot's foot? You know, and I just assumed that it was my dad at the time, but it was like,
and what part of Iowa is that in? I haven't heard of Devil's Creek before.
Lee County, Iowa.
Lee County. Okay.
So it's a weird creek. So it turns into Sugar Creek. There's like 2 Sugar Creeks down there, but
okay.
Sugar Creek turns into Devil's Creek. And I lived next to Devil's Creek for years as a kid. And anyway, it's like a kind of empties right into the Mississippi River near Montrose, Iowa.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Gotcha.
Between Fort Madison and Montrose.
Yep.
And that's a really interesting geological area down there. I've spent a lot of time researching that topography, just trying to get a better understanding of my home area. And yeah, I don't know.
Few more questions. Just really blunt. Were you guys, had you had anything to drink or anything like that?
No, actually. So Red doesn't drink.
Okay.
And I had thought about getting some beers earlier in the day.
Yeah.
But, you know, this never came to fruition. And I'm not a big drinker.
Sure.
I mean, I'll drink from time to time, but I actually thought we was going to get there, you know, maybe converse for a little while and go to bed and get up early.
Right.
You know, do some exploring. And so I wasn't like in this mood that I was going to go in there and get drunk and, you know, party or nothing like that. So I didn't even bring any beer with me.
Do you remember anything about how he described what he saw when he saw the creature for a little bit?
Just that it was black.
Okay. Yep.
And that it moved from, I think, one tree to the next.
Gotcha. And that, what he had mentioned, it was near, like, there was a part when he had mentioned that there was a large, like, cottonwood tree or something like that.
Yeah, there seems to be like a big tree that's kind of right near the road or the trail.
Okay.
So it would be, it wasn't the way that we came. It would have been the direction from which we heard the first whoops.
Okay. Gotcha.
There's like a giant tree. I don't know if it's a giant tree, but cottonwoods get pretty big. So
right.
I think it was a monster cottonwood by any means, if it was even a cottonwood.
Is that the area where he had seen the creature? Or was that a totally different area?
What do you mean?
Like he had seen it move from tree to tree in the woods. Was that near that large cottonwood tree, or that was a totally different area of camp?
No, yeah, that's where he said that he saw it.
Gotcha.
And I don't know. I think he said it moved to the right, from left to right, but I'm not really sure on that one.
Okay. No other campers that you saw in the park?
No, that's the thing. It was funny too, because we were like, as we were driving in, there's like this something cabins hotel or motel that's near the park.
Okay.
And it was absolutely packed with people.
Really?
So like everyone staying there. And I was weird. Like, man, there's camping inside. I thought that because there were so many people at that hotel that we would see people, like campers, but there was no campers. There was no one. We saw absolutely no one in anywhere near that park. There wasn't a car on the side of the road. There was nothing. And, as we were leaving and driving out of that area, we passed by that place again, all the same vehicles and all stuff were there. And it made me realize, because, we were talking about, what if the locals, maybe those Bigfoot thought we might have been someone else.
Absolutely.
Maybe there's people that know those beings are there and go out there and for all we know, they could be trading with them. Who knows? Or being their friend. We don't know.
Oh, who knows, man?
And they just thought, oh, maybe it's them, the Bigfoot thought, and that's why they were whooping the first couple times. Like, well, seeing if we would whoop back. I don't know if these things are migratory or whether they're more likely to be in that area in August because of the water. And it's been a drought, so maybe that drew them in. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, last thing. Did you guys run into any, did any DNR show up?
No. Really?
That's interesting. Okay.
Why would you assume that they would be there?
I've heard that in Iowa parks that they usually show up pretty quick, but who knows? They may have had an off night or something. But that's just something I've heard from different people.
So maybe, they might have drove through. I actually have a friend that used to work for the DNR here in Iowa. He works for the Utah DNR now.
Oh, wow.
And I was actually talking to him. I had actually just sent him. So I had just seen, when I was picking up firewood, I seen a smooth earth snake, which is like a brown snake. And I took flash photos of it. I was taking quite a few photos, trying to get a good picture of it, because it's dark.
Right.
And I almost stepped on it. And so I had sent him that because his job used to be to count snakes.
Okay.
Within the DNR and, other duties and things like that. But he actually had to move because the DNR just isn't very well funded in the state of Iowa, unfortunately.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, whenever I don't see a DNR, it doesn't surprise me because I know they got shit for funding. And it was also, 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night when we left. So we'd probably been there. I mean, it doesn't seem like we were there 2 hours, but
it really makes you wonder, like, how long it's been since someone has been in that forest. Then, if maybe if DNR's not showing up, and if so your buddy Red said that all the fire pits had grass growing in them.
Yeah,
it's wild, man.
Nobody camps there, but that there's got to be a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's no way we're the first people that were shooed off by these things, or made to feel uncomfortable. Who knows, man? I don't think there's any missing 411s coming out of,
you hope like not, that, unless someone goes in by themselves, which is never a good idea. But
thank God he didn't go there by himself. Thank God my boss didn't.
Imagine.
Yeah, it would have been a completely different outcome. You know what I mean? Like he was way, and maybe it's just because I've spent so much time in the forest at night.
Yeah.
As a kid that I just, grew up in the country and I I'm a pretty big dude too,
Okay.
so it's not like an animal's gonna, me and Red talked about what would have happened if someone else had been there and they got scared and started running. What would have happened? What if I didn't have, the lack of fear that I did,
Right.
Would they have been able to pick up on that since they seem to be telepathic,
Sure.
I don't know, I have a lot of questions. I mean, it's just like any other discovery, it kind of makes you question more things, but it wasn't where I was expecting it.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for sharing your viewpoint of what happened. That was, it's very rare that I get to talk to more than one person about an interaction. So that is a very cool thing that I was able to talk to two different people about the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you get a few minutes to listen to everything you recorded with headphones, if you notice anything, just not be afraid to hit me up. And I don't even know if maybe Red got some stuff recorded too, or is it just you that was recording?
I don't know if he recorded anything.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
But hopefully, I hope there's at least something on these, that's what's weird is that as loud as this thing sounded at the end, I know that am recording around that time, because when I got the recording of me like standing up and like yelling, that's got to, it's got to be a mountain lion. I was trying to rationalize whatever the hell this thing was making so much noise.
Oh, you have that on tape?
Yeah, I have me saying that.
Holy mackerel! Wow.
But I don't hear anything. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's just that it's not a very good recording, but
so
you would think, because it was very loud to me. It sounded very loud. Like it was like, I mean, I thought we were getting charged.
I know guys. I know guys that can really dig into audio really good. It's up to you, but if you wouldn't mind, send everything you got over to my email, so of like the Olympic Project guys. They're good with audio. The guys out in Washington State.
I'm worse with names than I am anything else, so I'm not saying that I haven't heard of those or been on anything they've got. I barely
they pick it apart. Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely feel free to send over everything you got, and that would be awesome, man.
What is the email again?
It's bigfootsociety@gmail.com.
Bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Got it.
You got it. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I'll go back and I'll send it anyway. Because I've watched what's the guy, the Bob Gimlin?
Oh yeah,
where he like picks apart the Patterson tape.
Yep.
And shows things like redwoods hiding in the shadows and things like that. And I mean, people are wizards when it comes to being able to pull stuff out of audio and video. Yeah. So I don't doubt it if I can't necessarily hear it. And that's what's weird. If it would have been like, I understand things like, electronic voice phenomenon, stuff like that,
sure.
Ghosts, stuff, which I've had my fair share of ghost encounters in life.
Thank you for reaching out, Joshua. This has been a fun chat, dude.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you hearing me out. And it's nice to know that there are people that are like yourself that are furthering it. I just seen the thing the other day that actual researchers, like scientists, are no longer like just, what's the word? Just outright denying the existence of them.
Absolutely.
It's no longer.
Absolutely.
It's no longer. Because there's just so many things.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have cameras and everybody's got, and there's just too many people that are like encountering these beings. And I mean, that's what's wild. As soon as it whooped behind us, as soon as it did, I knew what it was.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I knew it wasn't a person, trying to pretend to be a Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
It was just too perfect. It was just like,
please leave your message for
Joshua.
Hey, Joshua. Hello. Hey, Joshua.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that, man. I thought I had it plugged in and it fell out of the wall, so eventually died.
Sorry, man.
But yeah,
I was wondering where it went.
I saw you were sending some text, so you actually do hear something.
I do actually.
No way.
Right before I said that's a mountain lion, I can actually hear it.
No way.
Yes, way, dude. I hope, man. I hope
you gotta send it.
I feel like a little bit.
You gotta send it, brother.
I'm sending you right now. Hold on.
Holy mackerel.
Bigfoot Society at Gmail.
Yeah.
God, dude. Can you imagine if it's like, and it's sad because I only got the very end of it. Because at first, before I pressed record, when it was like mad, I was kind of shocked by what I was hearing.
Okay.
I'll send you a text when I
Sweet,
I would definitely want to figure this out and get it sent to you. So
yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to do that, Joshua.
No problem.
All right. If there's anything I can do to help, don't be afraid to reach out. And we'll be in touch. Okay, dude?
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Talk to you later, man. Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. And I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening.